Hello there, my friend. This is Ron LeGrand, and I've got a very special interview with a very special guy here right now. His name is Joe McNamee today, and we've got a very special program we want to discuss about what Joe's discovered on how to get houses sold, and I mean sold fast. So this is going to be a very interesting conversation about how Joe runs his business, how you can run your business if you want, and the unique things he does to sell houses. If you've been around a while, you know that it's real easy to buy houses out there in this marketplace today, but a lot of people don't get into the business because they're afraid of selling them. So on this call, I'm going to help you dispel the myth that houses are not selling, and I'm going to let my friend Joe McNamee do that. Welcome, Joe.
Well, thanks, Ron. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm anxious to get started.
Why don't we do that by you telling them a little bit about your background, but what does your business look like today, Joe? Why should we listen to you?
Well, first of all, I've spent a lot of time in real estate. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Matter of fact, it was just about all blood, sweat, and tears. I've done residential, commercial, industrial, raw land. I was a general contractor for years, a developer. I spent 20 years in the military while I was doing all that stuff every time I was stationed in the States. But more importantly, the time I spent growing up as a kid, sitting at the kitchen table with mom and dad and even at my grandparents' house, all we talked about was real estate and construction. My mom was a realtor for 27 years. My dad was a general contractor and a carpenter. We just ate, drank, slept real estate and how to make money off of it. Then I met you, and you changed my life. I mean, in just a few years, you taught me how to leverage my mind instead of my back. Now I'm approaching 1,000 deals. So that's a little bit about what's going on with me and how it's happening for me.
Where do you live right now, Joe?
Well, we're on the outskirts of Savannah, Georgia. That's where we operate. We're about 2.5 hours north of the Jacksonville area. Finally,
Okay.
the weather's warmer.
Well, now, maybe. Depends on what day of the week.
That's true.
Tell us a little bit about what your current business, how many deals would you say that you do each and every month on an average now, Joe?
Well, before I put an outside sales rep in place, I could do around 5 deals a month at the most. Putting the outside sales rep in place jumped that number to, we can do 20. We don't do 20 every month, but last year we capped off at 73 deals.
73 deals last year, which was 2009?
2009, that's correct.
Okay. And what do you think you're going to do this year?
That's hard to say. Right now, we're really focusing heavier on attracting people who have multiple numbers of houses that we can buy at one time. So one interview, one person, get them to sell us several houses at one time. So that's what we're focusing on, and we've got to be focused on that large buyers list to make that happen.
What's your average profit per deal that you're doing now, Joe?
It fluctuates, but right now we're still hitting anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 per deal. There's some that are way below that that we just kind of let happen anyway, and then there's some that are way above that.
Wow. So what do you think your average is?
I'm sorry?
What do you think your average is?
It's hovering around 35,000, right in there.
Okay, so I'm multiplying that times 73 in my head here. Give me a minute to do the math. That's pretty good living, isn't it?
It makes us comfortable.
All right, well, let's get to the secret that makes that possible. How can you do so many deals so fast? Because that's what our listeners want to know right now.
Well, we have a program that's called Massive Buyer Generating System. Once I started building my buyers list, I quickly realized more is better. And then we kicked in all the things that we were learning about building a buyer's list. We kicked it into the creative mode, and I like to say that we put it on what I call double shots of steroids. And we're the best on the planet at doing that. We really do create a large buyer's list. So when I sell a house, I've got 3, 4, 5, up to 8 to 10 backup buyers for that same property. Mm-hmm. In the sometimes we like to say the unlikely or the likely event that the buyer backs out of the deal down the road, we got plenty of people standing there waiting to hand us money to move into that same exact house.
So you're telling me it's easier to find a house for a buyer than a buyer for a house?
Well, I've heard that somewhere before. Absolutely.
So you just what you've gotten good at is you build a huge list of people. You know exactly what they got to work with, and now you just go find deals where they want to live and in the price range they want and cater them to their needs. Is that right?
Sure, and we literally put a map on the wall of the areas. We have a map on the wall in my office of the areas that we work, and we keep track of the averages of what the buyers are telling us. Another thing I've heard this intelligent guru say, let the market speak. That's the market speaking to us, and we put it right on our map so we know when a deal pops up what our buyers are telling us. It's kind of a way of establishing value in addition to pulling comps.
Okay, well, you might be calling me the intelligent guru, but I'm not the intelligent guru that's built this beautiful system that you have for buying houses like you've got it. And by the way, I heard that you talking about this secret buyers program. Tell me about that.
We knocked it out of the park on that one. Again, our creativity was kicking in there, and we were listening to the buyers that were calling us and coming into our office, the ones that were willing to. They'd come in, they'd have embarrassment stories, they'd have humiliation, afraid, fear of being rejected once again. We knocked it out of the park. We created this secret program where it's a system where they don't have to talk to a human being, they don't email us, they don't connect with us at all. There's no phone number. We don't know them. They're subdued. They're completely secret from me and my staff. And we let them know whether they're approved or not for buying one of our houses. Once they get the message that they're approved, now they must contact us. But the fear, the embarrassment, the humiliation's gone. They're ready to call us. But there's a ton of people sitting there that won't talk to anybody because they don't want to get embarrassed again, which is what the banks and the mortgage companies are doing to them.
All right, well, you're going to have to explain how that works. You said they don't contact you. How do you get the information from them to determine whether they qualify for one of your houses or not?
We have them, well, we don't have them do anything. They see one of our sites. So they've looked on our site, they've seen a house for sale, they've seen one of our ads, and they've gone to the site. They see this house or this system sitting there that they are interested in knowing more about. Then on our system, it tells them, create a secret password that only you know. They create the secret password, they input it into that site, and then they tell us what they have to work with down in a month. We don't know who they are, so they create this code. It could be, a matter of fact, the first one was, I think, Seaferry was the code that came in, very first one when we created the system. And so now all we know is Seaferry. We review what they've said that they have to work with down in a month, a little bit more about what kind of a house they're looking for. We can determine whether we can find a house or already have one for them. Usually we don't have one because our houses sell so fast, but when we do have one, we know that fits too. Then we communicate back to that secret code, that Seaferry code, and say, you're approved or you're disapproved.
Well, how do you communicate back to them, Joe, if they didn't give you their email?
On the same exact website, on that same site they're going to.
Oh, you post a message there, then they go there and get it, huh?
That's right. That's right.
Well, man, that is cool. That is downright cool.
Well, as a matter of fact, Ron, I'm videoing this while we're actually recording this. And my office manager, who's absolutely the most beautiful woman in the world, that's my wife, she showed me just a few minutes ago, and I'm not kidding, it was just a few minutes ago. So I'm flipping through this file in my hand that is literally probably 100 buyer applications right here from that program. That's just for the year 2010. Today's January 19th, 2010, and I didn't even know this existed, at this number. It's about 3/4 of an inch thick file folder. She prints them out, each one of them, and that's what this is. I'm serious. That just happened just a few minutes ago before I got on this call with you.
Wow. So your system is so unique because your buyers cannot get intimidated because they know you know. They know that you do not know who they are, so they're giving you information, and then they reply if they want to. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Now, granted, that whole thick file folder is not going to be a buyer, every one of those.
Of course not.
But all it takes is a handful, right?
Didn't cost you anything to get them either, so what? Listen, this is really unique, but you didn't start out this way. How long have you been working this kind of a system?
We started that system the very end of September 2009. That's when we came up with the idea. We put it in place, and within, I'd say, about 4 hours, we had 3 applications on it. It was the craziest. I couldn't believe it. I figured it's going to be a week, and we'll get one, and then we'll tune it up somehow or another. Like I said, we knocked it out of the park with that one. It was very, 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 very motivating for us.
Oh, okay. Well, let me stop here just for a second, Joe. Folks, if you're listening to this call right now, we're not going to sell anything on this call. So I can already read your mind and tell that you want to know more about Joe's program. Joe will give you the contact information at the end of the call. Then if you want to contact him and learn more about it, you can. Yes, he can do this for you. And, yes, it is very inexpensive. But nothing will be offered at the end. So make sure that you remind me, make sure that you get that information on there for him, Joe, because I know they're going to learn about this program. I know I do.
Okay.
Okay. Listen, how many, you have employees right now, right? How many people is in your entire organization?
Well, it fluctuates. I mean, I have bird dogs, I have full-time people on staff, and then I have part-time people come in and out, which are mostly subcontractors in. But I'm sorry?
I didn't say anything.
Okay. I didn't start out that way, but I have it that way now. Yes, I'm built much bigger than the average person who is just starting this business. But, your good friend and student Steve Deuce said something that really stuck with me. You say, the less I do, the more I make. Steve Deuce said he likes to look at it this way. The less I do, the more likely it is to get done. And as soon as I put that sales rep in place, all kinds of things started happening that I was putting off or not doing and I should do, which meant everything moved significantly faster, and then back to the more is better.
All right. So you have a sales rep, but before I get to that, how many other people do you have in your organization?
Well, there's, focused full-time on my office manager, of course myself, my sales rep, and then I have a techie guy who I just lost, so I have to replace him on full-time, and then I have one marketing person who's actually a commercial tenant of mine in my same office building who is in and out of my business a lot, so I would call her a full-time person too. So that's 5.
So you have 5 people in your total organization. That includes your salesperson?
Yes.
Okay, I'm listening to this, and I don't have 5 people. I'm sitting at home, just starting my business. How many houses do you think it would be realistic for me to do per month? Just myself. Maybe I got one person in my family to help me, because I know you can think back to when that was the case for you.
Absolutely. I would say realistically you can do 1 to 3 a month. In the very beginning, spend the time building your buyers list first. Spend a month or 2 on that, and then that's full of motivation for you right there. These are the people sitting there trying to hand this revenue to you as soon as you find a product for them to buy.
What kind of buyers are you catering to? Do you wholesale and retail?
We do wholesale. We don't do as much wholesale as we used to. That's kind of a dangerous area for me. Remember, I did a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and I'm so tempted to reach out there and still do that because it's kind of the fiber that makes me who I am. I grew up that way. So I have to stay away from a lot of those fixer-uppers that are heavy fixer-uppers. But fortunately, just recently, another person that I guess we could actually say he's really part of my staff, he is the fiance of my outside sales rep, and he does a lot of the repair work on the home. So that kind of helps me because instead of me going and doing it myself because I get tired of being ran around by a contractor, he's starting to take on that world. But we don't do as many wholesalers as we do.
So you do retail them. You rehab them and retail them. Yeah,
well, we try to stay away from rehab as much as we can. A lot of them are already pretty houses. But we do the rehabbers, but not as much. Like I said, it's a dangerous area for me. It's not my time.
So how are you acquiring the ones that you don't have to rehab?
The ones that I don't have to rehab, how am I acquiring them?
Yes.
A lot of those are coming from my for rents. We're calling for rents, and we're finding pretty houses with tenants in them, and the landlord doesn't know that they can sell the house, and we connect with them, and now they're ready to sell. They're anxious to do that. They're afraid that the market's going to continue to drop, and they're going to get stuck without a tenant. So we acquire them, and sometimes those tenants become the buyers. It's kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah, I heard that works.
Yep.
And do you also do the other campaigns, the signs and the yellow letters and the like?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I use the yellow letter religiously.
So you are doing the pretty house and the ugly house business, and regardless of which type of house you're buying, your exit strategy is already built in because you've got a list of hungry buyers waiting to buy them, which is your specialty. Yes? Right?
It just
Okay.
yes, you're
Okay.
absolutely right. I mean, it
Uh,
just lights the fire under our butt constantly when we have, especially when we have those bigger down payment type buyers.
oh, I love those. Of course, when you got a whole list of people waiting to buy, it kind of cures your procrastination. You got to get out there and find them something so you can get the money, right?
Sure,
So that
and we
makes
feel
it
bad
easy.
because we'll
Yeah.
have 4 or 5 people doing our application receipt agreement on the same exact house. Who's going to get it, type thing, and you feel bad for the other ones. Let's just say there's 5 sitting there for the one house. The other 4, we got to go find them a place because we feel bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So cures procrastination. Do you use realtors in your business at all?
Yes, we do. They play a big role in it, and I teach our local realtors how to bring me endless supplies of buyers that they can't make money off of without me. And now, what do I mean by that is, a buyer that can't get qualified. Let's say they make enough money to buy one of our houses or even what the realtors show them, but they can't qualify for a loan at the bank because they've only been working in this new job for 6 months. There's no 2 years of tax returns, and stated income's kind of out the window right now. So, there's buyers that come to the realtor who maybe they just got discharged from a bankruptcy 6 months or a year ago. I can use them all day long, but they're not going to go get them a conventional loan, that's for sure.
All right. So you use realtors for selling it all or just buying?
Well,
You really don't need them for
buyers,
selling, do you?
So,
yeah.
Yeah,
They're bringing
buyers.
Okay, so they are bringing you some buyers. All right.
Absolutely, but we use them on both sides of it.
All right, you and I had a conversation about how you get your community involved. Talk to me about that.
Okay. Well, I mean, first of all, we have, a buyer referral system where the person who has bought from us, they do referrals to us on others. So here's an example. I had a lady buy a house from us in a small town. Actually, it was Statesboro, Georgia. And then a short while later, she referred her sister to us. Her sister bought in the same town, and then now we're working with the mother, and all that happened all within the same year with just that one buyer. So they're creating their own little community right there of, people living next door to each other almost. They're not quite next door, but they're just down the street from each other. But then we also have that Pick Your Neighbor program that you're well aware of, where the neighborhood gets to choose the buyer for the house that you're taking over in their neighborhood. But what even works better than that is we have we call it your Fix Your Community program. And we're dealing with the city managers, the county managers. We're dealing with the police department, the heads of the police department, the churches, the gossiping spots, which would be like your beauty shops, barber shops. We have a place here, a guy that has this little pizza shop, and his name is Monty, and he knows everybody's gossip. He's just the guy to go to let him know what you're doing with your business so that he can spread it around to everybody else. So people pop in or looking to sell their house, buy their house, what have you. He's the guy to tell because he's going to just spit it out all over the place.
So really it's a matter of letting the world know what business you're in and not trying to keep it a secret, treating people correctly when they come in and do business with you, both on the buying and the selling end. Pretty soon the word gets around, you couldn't stop them from sending you referrals if you ask them not to.
That's right. And if you treat people with respect, they're not a number, they're not a check to us. They're people who have problems and solve the community problems. Solve the local economy. We all can't do anything about the world economy, very much, but you can solve some serious problems in your local community by, having a system like this. Can you imagine how much I stimulate my economy? Just think about my closing attorney alone. They all love me there because, they're getting paid every time a closing happens by me.
Do you use an attorney to do all your closings?
Absolutely. Wouldn't do it any other way. I don't even
Congratulations. I rarely hear that from a man.
Yeah, I would never do it with it.
No.
Matter of fact, my daughter, who is an investor also, she's a college professor in mathematics, and she does investing on the side. Her calling in life is teaching, so, I got to leave her alone with that. But she had a place down in Tampa she was wanting to get, and there was a title agent involved because, Florida's a title agent company or state, and I still had her hire an attorney to get the attorney involved with the closing. Now, that might have been overkill, but it's just kind of the way I look at it.
Well, Joe, I know that when you're attracting all of these buyers coming at you, that probably 90% of them or are worth pretty much a waste of your time. What do you do to handle all of these time wasters? And so, in other words, how do you handle this big old huge list?
Well, Ron, that's something I've been learning from you is how to manage my time better. And I'll get sucked into a story like you will not believe. So I had to think hard and long about that one. And, we have our down payment assistance program, which, goes for our lease purchase buyers. They're leasing it from us until they build up enough of their down payment to make me comfortable enough, getting enough of their skin in the game to turn around and convert that to owner financing. You got to give me a lot of skin for me to put that deed in your name. But along with that program, we created what we call, and we're the only ones doing it that we know of, the Down Payment Growth Program. So this is literally people who are buyers giving us their down payment money before we have a house for them to buy. So they're building their down payment with us. Now, some of them have plenty attractive enough down payments, and I'll tell you about a few of them in a few minutes, but to make you just jump through hoops to find them a house right then and there. And then some of them are trying to grow their money up. Once it gets with us, it's one step further away from, let's pick on the husband. The husband saying, hey, I got to go buy a Harley. No, wait a minute, it's for our house, So once it's put with us and they're growing it, it's a little bit safer. Obviously, if they ask for it back, they're getting it back from us.
So really what you're telling me is that people come to you and they at least give you a deposit to get on your list of potential buyers, and then when you find them something, you back them into the property, but they've shown you some commitment before you go wasting time on them, even though you're really not wasting time on them, but they don't know that because they're just a bunch in a herd of other potential buyers, so you're just going to go to whoever reacts and acts first and comes forth and wants to sign an agreement and give you some more money. Is that correct?
That's correct. Ron, you said two things to me. You said to me through time, try to, deal with people only who want to deal with you, number one.
Right.
And number two, assume the whole world's full of crap until they prove otherwise.
Right.
Have we solved both of those problems if they give
yes, you
their
have.
money up front?
I love it. I'm absolutely in love with it. They're giving you a fee. Now
you
want to give them that money back if you don't find them a house, or if they request it at any time, right?
Absolutely. If they request it any time, it's their money. We give it right back to them. There's going to be people that come to us, and we can't find a house for everyone. There's no way. We couldn't find a house for 10% of our buyers. But the bottom line is.
Whoa! Stop. What did you just say?
I can't find a house for more than 10% of the buyers that are coming to me.
Imagine that. I want our listeners to stop and listen to what you just said. In your world, selling houses is not a problem. You can't find enough houses to satisfy the voracious appetite of the list that you've built of people that you know exactly what they can qualify for and what they can't and how much money they got and where they want to live and how much they can pay every single month, because they've given you that information. And not only that, they've given you a deposit to find them a house. Joe, I've never heard of anybody doing that.
Yeah,
ever.
It's so motivational. I mean, it works better than Tony Robbins. I'm telling you. Have them hand that money to you, and then watch the team go to work. It's really cool.
That's amazing. So you call this your down payment, what is it? Down payment growth program. I love it. So you got the secret buyers program to where they come to you and you don't even communicate with them until they say it's time. And then you got the down payment growth program where they give you money to put them on your list. That's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, well, let me ask you this. How much money would it cost me to build a list like this?
Well, that's the thing that's really hard for people to wrap their head around. 75% of our buyers list, of our techniques on building our buyers list, don't cost a dime to do.
Wow.
Now, you just asked me a little while ago about that secret buyers, and then you said the magic thing about it. That doesn't cost a dime to build that. I mean, a little bit of printer ink and, paper, but, I mean, we're talking about that doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't – you don't have to buy expensive ads out there all over the place to build a buyer's list. And like I said, 75% of what we do doesn't cost anything. We only really do at any one given time about 20% of what's on my massive buying, program. I mean, You can't do all of it, but some things work better today or this month than they did last month. Other things work better in other areas than one area, than the next, and all that kind of stuff. So it's a great mix of all different kinds of things. And then the truth of the matter is some people will do better at one way of attracting buyers than another way. There's plenty to choose from there.
Joe, if I had just my home, I wanted to just sell my home, that means that your program would absolutely certainly get that thing sold, probably for top retail price too, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Yes.
No doubt about it. It's so easy to find the buyers once you understand how, and it doesn't cost anything to build the buyers list. You don't have to do 100% of the things that are I'm making available.
How much time do you think it would take? I'm starting from scratch right now. I'm just setting it up. When do you think I'd have my buyers list in place, or when do you think it'd start growing?
Well, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to have to get out of your own way. So I can't tell you how long it would take you to get started in the beginning. But once you're out of your own way, 5-10 hours a month doing it as a person just getting started. Now, I do have the numbers because I asked this question to my sales rep not too long ago. How many hours a month does she commit towards doing this program? She's got 12 to 15 hours a month she puts in building the buyer's list, and then you add to that about 5 hours a month to input the data. So grand total, less than 20 hours a month now, not a week, a month, keeping up building this buyer's list. And our plan, right now we've got over 2,000 buyers on our list. Our plan by this time next year, we'll have around 5,000, and then I think we'll probably stick right at that number. And it attrits by about 8% a month, and it grows by about 12% a month. So you can see a 4% increase there on it.
Those numbers will work in any business. All right. Well, speaking of your salesperson, then let's talk about that. Is it a he or a she?
It's a she.
Okay. What does she do?
Well, her sole focus is on selling my real estate. Now, that's a lot to do when you talk about the magnitude that we're, the number of deals that we do.
Right.
So it keeps her pretty busy. But in the beginning, when I first put her on staff, it took me a little while to train her up the way I wanted her to be. And so I wrapped an entire program around how to do this. But the best part, she doesn't cost me anything. She does all this for me for free. It doesn't cost me a dime. Now, what I mean by that is, obviously, the buyer is coming in with enough skin in the game for me to take a piece of that and give to her. But it's well worth it because she's the one bringing the buyer in. So
okay, you had me going there. Now I found out the catch. The catch is you don't pay her till you get paid.
That's right.
But she is costing you part of your proceeds, either from your down payment or your cash out or whatever you're going to do.
Right,
but
if I don't have her there, then I miss out on all those additional deals that I couldn't do without her.
Oh, no question about it. In other words, the less you do, the more you make.
Hey, how about that? We came back to that.
Okay. So you got one person selling all of your property. So literally from the time you go out and get a contract on it, she pretty much takes it over from there, doesn't she?
That's true. A lot of times she'll sell the houses way before we buy them.
And if there's any work that needs to be done, she'll arrange that to be done. She puts up the signs. You put lock boxes on your houses?
Yes, we do. We put if it's an empty house. Now, if it's a house that a person still lives in or they still have their belongings in it, now she acts almost like a realtor, and she goes out and shows the place.
Okay.
But every time
so she does all that.
Better.
She does everything.
That's right.
Well, now, Joe, what do you do?
Collect checks and cash them. No, I mean, there's a lot to manage it, and every now and then you got to crack the whip, and you got to. This is a conversation I typically have with my sales rep. She'll talk about a house in the process that she's doing, and I'll say, well, didn't you remember doing such and such, so-and-so? And so she even has to go back and listen to our program again and again because there's so many different techniques, and she's like, oh, that would have worked perfect for that one. And so every now and then I got to say that. You're talking about maybe a 20-minute conversation a day.
Yeah, it sounds like your job's tough.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've learned how to do that from you.
Well, you're in the seven-figure incomes right now, and it is, in fact, true. You work a fraction of the amount of time that you did even when you started in real estate. True or false?
It's absolutely true.
And you're making 50 times the money. 50 times the money, aren't you?
It's a lot. I'd have to sit there and run that on a calculator. I don't even care anymore. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just
Yeah.
Well,
I hear you. Easy for you to say, Joe. Easy for you to say. All right, let me call before we get. I don't want to leave this salesperson thing here. Just a minute. I got a couple more questions. All right.
Okay.
Obviously, our listeners are going to want to know how this salesperson gets paid.
Well, I pay her off of the deal. So the down payment money, as soon as I've received it, she's getting her share out of that.
Okay. Are you going to disclose what that share is?
Well, it's typically $1,200 per deal. Now, it depends on the type of sale we've done. If we do an auction, then she's got a lot more time and effort into it. So when she does an auction, then she makes around $3,000 off of that one.
Do you mean a round robin weekend sale type thing?
That's exactly right.
Okay. So in other words, she has to man 2 open houses, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it takes a little bit more effort, and so I figure it's more than double the amount. But how many buyers do I get out of that for that same neighborhood? It's well worth it to me.
Yeah. All right. So you pay her based on the property, and she gets paid when you get paid. She works exclusively for you. She works for nobody else. And, folks, if you're listening, you absolutely do not want to put anybody in this position that has anything else to do, especially if they're a realtor and they're selling houses in the MLS with your leads. That is a conflict of interest, never has worked, never will work. So, Joe, you've actually created a system where someone could take your system and hand it to the salesperson and train them it'll train them for you. Is that correct?
That's right. And then we let them look over her shoulder also so they can come back. Excuse me. When we train their salesperson, they can come in then and actually spend a couple of days with my sales rep and just look over their shoulder. We provide all that type of stuff for them.
So
and you be the investor instead of the sales rep. I mean, either way, it doesn't matter to us.
So you have systems to train them on your systems. Then you have a system to train the salesperson for our listeners. And then, of course, if they want to, they can come spend 2 or 3 days with you going through your business and watch you do the business and watch your salesperson do the whole process, which is kind of a rare thing because, guys, you don't get that chance very often. And, of course, if they contact you with the information that you leave when I'm through here in a second, you can get them all that information, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
All
right, well, go ahead.
Stay with that rep for a second. She's been with me a little over a year. She's already entered into the $3 million club. But remember, when you compare that to a realtor, that's pretty reputable. But keep this in mind: she can only sell the houses that I control, whereas
Correct.
a realtor can sell any house out there, on the MLS or not. She can only sell what's my house or under my control.
Well, I mean, let's face it, she's making 6 figures working for you. Why would she want to work with him? Why would she want to do anything else?
Exactly.
All right. So you're pretty good to her, aren't you?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, do you, this is my last question. So do you use videos anywhere in your process of selling these houses?
Yeah. I mean, in our marketing, video is becoming more and more popular. So you can look all over the internet. Everybody's saying use video to sell. Video's been a big part of ours, and with the memory capabilities now online, which video takes up a lot of memory, it's not an issue anymore. And it's free, and it works real well for us, and we use it constantly on every one of our houses that we have for sale that we're going to have for a couple of days. Then we'll go ahead and do a video on it, put it out there.
All right.
So, yes, absolutely video. Ron, I wanted to tell you some of the benefits of this massive buyer-generating system. First of all, it's where the revenue comes from. So building that big buyers list, the buyers are the one giving us most of our checks. It eliminates fear. People who just can't quite get started, they're afraid to get started. They're not sure whether they should take over that house or not, or make an offer on it, or just put it under an option. They're not sure. When you got a bunch of buyers sitting there that want a house like that in that area, trying to give you checks, it's motivating.
Peace of mind.
And that jumps into the next thing. It's very motivating to you as the investor and your team. We just did we had a secret buyer come into our system a week ago. She has $70,000 to put down. Now her monthly payment's not that high, but with $70,000 down, I can find a house that fits.
You bet. You bet.
Yeah, but I mean, So she came in through the Secret Buyers Program. Now she's contacted us because she found out she was approved by us. So now we went out and we looked for a house that fits what she wants. We found 15 that we can work with each one of these sellers. So now all she's got to do is pick one, and she's in our down payment growth program.
Perfect.
I mean, it's a no-brainer right there.
Well, when you get somebody with
a guy on one of our options, he came from an ad. He had 20 grand put down. He's handing me the 20 grand. And then in the middle of the interview, he says, oh, by the way, I'm in bankruptcy. I said, okay, well, you can't buy one of our houses. You can lease one. You've got to get your bankruptcy discharged before you can do anything further. Still, the 20 grand is ours. So, you know, it motivates you. And the third thing is when we're dealing with our private lenders, the confidence that they have in our system when they see our strong, massive buyers list, their confidence shoots through the roof. They're so confident in the program and knowing that we've got plenty of backup buyers for the same property. It's a no-brainer for them. They're not worried about it. And, of course, they can make a much better return on their money. And then the last thing about it is it really helps us determine value. So in our pre-screening process, when we got our yellow letters going out, we got the calls coming in, we're trying to figure out, is that a house we want to get involved in or not? We just look at our buyers list. What's the market telling us? Remember that? Let the market speak. We're letting that determine values for us. So, yes, we're pulling comps, but we're adding that piece to it also, which is, you know, where the money's coming from. If a person is able to handle the down payment, the monthly payment, it makes us comfortable, we're in. But,
well, Joe, when you got buyers stacked up like you have them, the sales price is no longer an issue. You're getting retail price for all your properties, aren't you?
Yes, I mean we do some wholesales, but mostly retail.
Yeah.
You know, we just barely scratch the surface of this stuff, and I could talk about it all day, but you know, I don't want to.
I won't let you.
Take
I won't let you.
Time with you.
By the way, one thing we didn't mention that if our listeners want you to, you literally can build a buyers list for them in their city and do it all for them, can't you?
That's a thing that we've been doing, but we haven't offered it up. I've been working with some of students that we've acquired, and we've literally gone out and built the buyers list for them, dropped it right in their lap. It really helps them get started. But now we're offering it up to everyone. Our
listeners can inquire about that and see if it's available at the time that they actually listen to this message and contact you, huh?
That's right.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to be on this call. This is a very important call. This is the missing link for all those folks sitting out there wondering if this real estate thing is going to work for them or not. And I'm going to turn it over to you now and let you give our audience your contact information so they can get a hold of you. And, guys, if you want to know more about Joe McNamee and how he can help you in your business, obviously it'd be foolish not to get a hold of him. It won't cost anything, and he's got several alternatives for you. And I can tell you from experience, he knows what the heck he's doing. He's one of the few that really have taken the business and escalated it and put it into hyperdrive. And it sounds like he's really just getting warmed up good because it looks like this year is going to be even better than your last year. And your last year wasn't bad. So thanks for taking the time to be with us, Joe. You're the man.
Well, thank you, Ron, and I can't tell you how much you've done for me. I don't want to tear up on you here, but I just appreciate you teaching me how to leverage my mind instead of my back.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you then and let you give them the contact information.
All right, thank you now.
Well, I hope that interview motivated you the way that it did Ron LeGrand. This is Joe McNamee. To learn more about my products and services available, you can go to joemcnameetraining.com. That's JoeMcNamee training.com. Go to the top of the page where the product store is listed, click on that tab, and you can find just about anything you need there. You can also give my staff a call at 912-395-8883. That's 912-395-8883. Someone there can help you with whatever it is you're looking for. I don't care if you're a brand new, want to get started as a real estate investor. If you're wanting to restart your business, you used to be an investor and you got caught by that economy that went south on a lot of people, but not us. Or if you're a seasoned pro and you just want to up your game some more, we've got something for everyone. So just give us a holler. Let us see if we can help you. I'm sure that we can. Let's move real estate together. Take care now. Bye.